So the Broncos got a splurge of amazing news today. We're going to be diving into it today, how the Broncos ownership continues to insert their dominance in the sports world. We're also going to be talking about how the Broncos still have a move that could happen, coming from a very valuable source that predicted the last time the Broncos made a move, which was for Jalen Waddle. And we're going to dive into all that today in today's video. What is going on, Broncos country? It's the one and only Denver Trav back with another video. We're going to be diving into some great Broncos content today. If you enjoy Broncos content, remember to hit that like button, comment, subscribe. It helps recommend me to more Bronco fans like yourself. So first things first, we're going to dive into the fact that the Broncos ownership group is now buying into other Denver sports. And we're going to be talking about that right now. As Adam Schefter reported, Broncos owners Kerry and Greg Pinter have expanded their commitment to and in the Denver sports community through a significant minority investment in the Colorado Rockies. Pinter Sports Group, the family entity that holds their ownership interest in the Broncos, now becomes the largest minority partner for the Rockies. Majority ownership of the Rockies and all team operations remain under Dick Munford. However, the Munford family, while Kerry and Greg Pinter continue to focus on the Broncos, they have a minority share, so they're basically minority owners of the Colorado Rockies, and this is going to give the Rockies a lot of money, and we're going to dive into how the Rockies are really going to benefit off the Pinter family being involved. And as we remember, prior to the Walton Pinter group buying the Broncos were an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. And when they came in and bought the team, the first thing was all about culture, shifting the culture, and getting back to the winning foundation. And they did that very quickly. The Walton Pinter family got brought in. Then guess what? They went out after a season with Russell Wilson and said, hey, look here, George Paton, we need to make a splash trade for a head coach. And they went out and traded for Sean Payton, and the organization started to trend upwards. In Sean Payton's first year in Denver with Russell Wilson, he went 8-9 with a quarterback that didn't fit his scheme, didn't fit the mold of what the Broncos were trying to build. And you can say they were just a win or two away from being a wild card team and competing for a playoff spot for the first time since Super Bowl 50. However, there was a big fiasco where Russell Wilson ended up getting benched. The Broncos lost some games because of Russell Wilson. We can look back at the Texans, the Patriots game, where he single-handedly cost you those games that would have got you in the playoffs. So the Broncos decided to bench him, and Sean Payton went out and handpicked his quarterback, and then the Broncos trended upwards every year after that. We'll dive into that right now. So as I said, Sean Payton went out and drafted Bo Nix, and the Broncos were one of the most slept on, hated teams in that draft. Bo Nix was going to be a bust. Bo Nix wasn't going to be good. However, it was absolutely wrong. Bo Nix and Sean Payton with an elite level defense, Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator, and you could say Vance's first year wasn't perfect. However, the Broncos ended up making their first playoff appearance since Super Bowl 50, and they lost to the Buffalo Bills in a heartbreaking loss that was not even close. So the Broncos in that offseason went out and signed J.K. Dobbins, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, and they were building to try to contend for a Super Bowl, and they did just that in the 2025 season. When we talk about the season the Broncos had, 14 regular season wins, won the AFC where they were the 1 seed, beat Buffalo in the divisional round, Bo Nix outplayed Josh Allen, and then we got the news that he broke his ankle, and then the Broncos ended up losing in the AFC Championship with Jarrett Stidham in a snow game. And I say this to say the Pinter family, being a minority owner of the Colorado Rockies, is only going to benefit them. The Walton Pinter Group is one of the richest groups in the world. They're going to be able to spend money on the Rockies alongside of the Broncos to build winning cultures for the city of Denver. And I think that's all this Pinter Sports Group wants to do, is win and invest in winning cultures. You've seen it happen in the Broncos. You've seen them go from, an 8-9 season to a 10-9 season to then going to a 14-win season, winning a playoff game. Was an quarterback injury away, or maybe even J.K. Dobbins playing away from beating the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl to face the Sam Darnold-led Seattle Seahawks, where if you have Bo Nix, the Broncos may be holding up their 4th Lombardi. It was a very, very sad situation, but the Broncos are now in this offseason. You see, they're just trying to get better. Everybody was really mad that the Broncos stayed put on their free agents, but they have the most returning players. They have the continuity. They have the culture, and guess what? They went out and made a splash move for Jalen Waddle, bringing in a wide receiver that does something different than any other receiver on our team to give us another chance at competing, because the Broncos are one of the most complete teams in the league. And that's shout outs to Sean Payton, George Payton, and the Pinter family at the very top. So when you look at everything they've done for the Broncos, the Colorado Rockies are definitely blessed to have these people, this ownership group, investing in their organization, because we see what it's did for our Denver Broncos. Aqib Talib was on his podcast once again today talking about how the Broncos still have a move brewing, and Skip Bayless kind of laughed in his face and said, Aqib, I'll believe it when I see it. And Aqib said, Skip, you still don't believe me? Look, I told you about the Waddle trade. You didn't want to believe me then, but now you need to believe me, and it's something that may happen on draft day.
Keep waiting for the bombshell to drop, because this man across from me over here keeps saying Denver's going to make another big move, and I keep waiting.
It might be the draft.
And wait. Oh,
yeah.
The draft.
It might be the draft, Skip.
Yeah.
So just,
maybe they're just getting gun shy in Denver.
Hey, come on, Skip.
Come on.
You still don't believe me? You still don't believe me, Skip?
No,
Come on,
unfortunately,
right.
I do, and I'm dreading what's about to happen.
And everybody's kind of assuming, hey, the Broncos may be trying to trade up to get a playmaker like a Kenyon Sadiq. Nobody really knows what Denver's going to do. However, Aqib Talib was absolutely right about how the Broncos were going to add a new explosive playmaker, which was Jalen Waddle. So it seems that Aqib Talib does have a lot of insight and has some connection with the Broncos, where he's getting information that is true, that is going to happen. And it seems that he thinks on draft day something big could happen. And even though a lot of people are saying, hey, I think Denver's going to trade up, they're going to trade into the first round, how surprised would we be if Denver decides to trade capital and trade for a guy like Breece Hall on draft night, or even a Kyle Pitts, somebody I've been talking about? I think everybody's talking, hey, Denver's going to trade up, which if they do trade up for a Kenyon Sadiq or try to trade up to get a playmaker, I won't be mad at all, or even a Jacob Rodriguez. I think that would be a solid pickup, but I don't think you have to trade in the first to get Jacob Rodriguez. However, it seems like Aqib Talib knows something, so this is just something to keep a watch on. It could be a trade for an outside guy that may have got franchise tagged at Breece Hall. We know the Broncos were all in on getting Travis Etienne before he signed with the home team, his home team in the New Orleans Saints. So it could be a Breece Hall, or it could be a Kyle Pitts, or it could be the Broncos are moving up the draft board to get a guy that they feel would fit this roster. Let me know in the comments below what you think it's going to be. Do you think it's going to be a splash trade for a playmaker like a Breece Hall or a Kyle Pitts, or do you think it's a trade up to try to land a young player that the Broncos can develop in a Kenyon Sadiq or any of the offensive playmakers, or do you think it's going to be a linebacker like Jacob Rodriguez? Make sure to remember to hit that like button, comment, subscribe. It helps recommend me to more Bronco fans like yourself.